Hi everyone, and welcome to the Smart Grid Heavy Hitter series. My guest on the program today is Commissioner Cavoukian, who is the Information and Privacy Commissioner for Ontario. Commissioner, I'm curious, why is the Information and Privacy Commissioner of Ontario concerned about smart grids?
Well, I always say that in order to protect the privacy of the citizens of Ontario, I have to protect the privacy of people anywhere in the world. Privacy knows no bounds, and technology transcends jurisdiction. So whatever new technologies arise that have privacy implications, we need to get right in there and ensure as much as we can that protections are built into especially new technologies and new developments like the smart grid. The ideal opportunity to protect privacy is at the outset and ideally embed privacy into the design of new technologies like the smart grid.
Why is there concern at all about privacy in smart grids? What's the danger?
Anytime that there's the possibility of collecting personally identifiable information, either directly or through some data linkage to it, privacy enters into the equation. So with the smart grid, you start with smart meters. And I should tell you that here in Toronto, Ontario, we are leading in smart grid, smart meter applications. By the end of this year, all houses in Toronto will have smart grids, and in Ontario by the end of 2012. So it's widespread application. Now, what smart grids enable the utility to do is to, on a real-time basis, go into your home and give you very clear indication of your electricity usage, which is very good because it will promote energy consumption reduction and a number of other programs. This is all very positive. And as long as the information is kept between the electrical utility and the consumer, there's no issue. It's no different than now, so to speak. However, with the possibility of third parties being interested in this information, the possibility of unauthorized data usage of this information that is linked to an identifiable individual, and with the growth of smart appliances, your computer, your television, your refrigerator, everything's going to be telling you and telling the utility what you're doing, when you're doing it, at what times. This introduces a whole new element of potential profiling of a consumer's activities within the household, which is, after all, your castle, right? Your home is sacrosanct. No one has been able to peer into the activities within the home before now. They'll be able to do that. So we have to ensure that this information is protected like Fort Knox.
How widespread are the concerns? I mean, how many people are aware that this is an issue, and how are people trying to deal with that issue?
And you're absolutely right. This is about a year and a half ago, I did an article, and I called privacy the sleeper issue of the smart grid. Because certainly last year, not a lot of activity associated with this area. But I can tell you that in the past year, the interest has grown dramatically. In Canada, we have jurisdiction over electrical utilities. So I've been working with Hydro One here in Ontario, Canada, and Toronto Hydro, and they not only understand the issues, of course they're regulated. I oversee compliance with these two utilities. However, I want to tell people, don't rely on regulation. I want to exceed regulation. I want to appeal to electrical utilities that in order for the smart grid to work, you need consumers to sign up and to become involved. You need to build trust and consumer confidence. The way you do that is by ensuring that they know what you're doing as a utility, they know what information you have from them, and most important, you are not going to disclose this information, you're not going to share it with any third parties without their consent. This is big. So my appeal to utilities, and I've been working with utilities throughout North America and the U.S. Smart Grid Alliance, I'm an active member there. My pitch to them is do this because it's good for your utility, because you want to get the buy-in of consumers, you want to get their cooperation, you must have their trust, you must have their confidence. So by embedding privacy into the design of the smart grid, you will be able to grow your smart grid in a way that attracts more consumers to it. And that's the win-win proposition of this.
I mean, it's great that you're telling them this. What are they actually doing? Are they taking what you say on board? Are they saying, "Oh, Commissioner Cavoukian is a nutcase, and we'll just put our concerns to one side," or or is there kind of a range of reactions?
Well, I'm sure some of them think I'm a nutcase. I give you that. But I think the majority, the ones who have reached out to us, have been actually quite positive about our approach. And they've actually given me a compliment. They've said, "You're not like most regulators we know." And I take that as a compliment, because my messaging to utilities and to everyone is do a positive sum paradigm, not a zero sum paradigm. By that I mean, I definitely want you always to protect privacy. I don't care if you're the private sector, the public sector. If you're dealing with individuals' personally identifiable information, you must protect that information. However, I don't say protect it to the exclusion of your own interests, your business interests. You have a business model. It has to survive and hopefully thrive. In this case, with the smart grid, electrical utilities want to grow this in an effort to promote conservation of energy, grow green programs, reduce consumption of energy on the part of individual users. We're all for that. So we're not doing this. We're not saying protect privacy to the exclusion of those interests. Not at all. We're saying you can do both. We show you how to do both by embedding privacy into the design of the smart grid. And I should tell you, it's at the ideal time. This is the time to do it when you're at the nascent stage. It's at its infancy, the smart grid development, starting with the smart meters. And I'm not giving you pie in the sky. I'm telling you how to do it in a very defined way. We've worked with Hydro One, for example, and Toronto Hydro. We have 2 papers that we've produced that are available on our website. This one, the latest one with Hydro One, it's called Achieving the Gold Standard in Data Protection for the Smart Grid. So we're trying to get people to reach for the sky on this in terms of doing it now, embed privacy, and we tell you how to do it. This is best practices on exactly how to do it, and we did it in partnership with an electrical utility. So we give you the roadmap on how to do this and also respect privacy and enhance your business interests. Positive sum, win-win.
Commissioner, we're running low on time, so one final question. Is there anything about privacy and smart grids that I haven't asked you that you'd like to address?
Just one final point, for the people listening to this. I would like them to view the smart grid and how to protect information in a way that is not the usual who owns the data. The question of ownership often comes up, and I'm going to suggest to you that's the wrong language to frame this in. When you talk about privacy and personally identifiable information, data protection, you use the language of sort of bundles of rights associated with that information. It's the language of custody and control of the information as opposed to ownership. Because it would be easy for the utility to say, it's our data, we collect it, and then you get mired into this whole legalese about who owns the data. It's not one of ownership. Of course, the utility is collecting the data, they're providing a service to consumers, and there's an exchange of information. I think it's better to talk about what obligations and duties are associated with that. So for a utility who has custody and control over the data, they also have a duty of care and obligations with respect to protecting that data. They have a duty of care, confidentiality, and ensuring that the consumer not only knows what you're doing, so you're transparent with respect to your practices, but they have access to their own data, and ideally that they have full ability to say no third-party use of this data unless I consent to it. That's the gold standard, and that's what I'm hoping that language will be embraced in this area.
Commissioner, thanks a million for coming on the show.